Hi. So about half a year ago I made a video talking about the optimal way to ruin your OSU stable performance. And in that video we came to the conclusion that unless your PC is 25 years old, you will be fine no matter what you do. And it kinda makes sense considering the game was literally designed to run on bad hardware from the very beginning. But that was OSU stable. How about we find out if the same can be said for OSU Lazer? First of all, let's get some baseline numbers. Unlike stable, Lazer is coded in a way where latency is not tied to FPS, meaning 60 FPS will feel the same as 1000 FPS in terms of latency. Because of this separation, there isn't really a need for very high FPS numbers in Lazer, which is why Pepe decided to implement a 1K frame rate limiter. So in Lazer, 1K FPS is the most you can get ever. Thankfully for us, 1K is exactly the average FPS for our initial benchmark. Now is probably a good time to mention that I'm currently running the game on my RTX 2080, not the GT 610 from the last video. So if we initially didn't get 1K FPS, I would be very, very disappointed. Anyway, moving on. One of the new features in OSU Lazer is the ability to change your game renderer. This might help some people in some cases, but usually it makes little to no difference, which was exactly the case for me. Going from DirectX to OpenGL made literally no difference, but what did make a difference was switching from multi-threaded mode to single-threaded mode. Which, to put it simply, just means that the entire game will be rendered on one core as opposed to multiple CPU cores. Which I guess kind of made a difference, but we were still hovering way above anything that can be considered low frame rate. It's time to bring out the big guns. Dynamic Super Resolution, or DSR, allows you to change your monitor resolution from whatever it currently is to about 4 times as big. And given how my monitor is 1080p, we can actually go all the way up to 4K. And after a few minor inconveniences,
why does my area end here, bro? What?
we had our new average FPS, which was about 200 less, but it was still way above the monitor's refresh rate, so if I didn't have an FPS counter on screen, I would probably not even notice the difference. Next up, I decided to turn on hit lighting and some other in-game effects like background blur, but those made literally no impact because, well, a 2080 is more than capable of blurring a background image, And at this point, you're probably wondering, why haven't you tried any mods yet? Well, I did try some of the fun mods, but most of them just kinda did nothing or even improved the FPS. So in order to not make this video an hour long, I just kinda had to cut the entire segment. But trust me on this one, mods do not make a huge difference. Moving on, time to underclock and underpower the GPU. For this, of course, I'm using the MSI Afterburner, which lets me go up to -500 on both core and memory, and even limit the maximum power the GPU is allowed to use to 46%. Does that make a huge difference in the frame rate? Well, no, not really. We dropped like 100 FPS, but 600 versus 500 is literally negligible. That's like a run-to-run variance type difference. It was about at this point when I ran out of ideas. I tried every setting in the Lazer settings menu, I tried changing the resolution, and even went as far as to downclock the GPU. But the game is still very much playable. Is that it? Are we done? Is an RTX 2080 too powerful for OSU? Well, yeah, it is. But there is one final thing you can do to ruin the performance on literally any system out there. Doesn't matter if it's an old ThinkPad from 2011, doesn't matter if it has a 5090. There's one last thing you can do to ruin the performance on any system out there. Skinning. You see, in OSU Lazer, you can customize your skin by literally moving the elements around. What you can also do is add multiple of the same element, meaning you can choose any of these elements on the left, add about, 200 of those, and you will see a noticeable FPS difference. On screen right now you can see about 400 score counters. And as you could probably tell, the FPS isn't looking so good anymore. Double that to make it 800, and we are dipping below 60 frames per second. So the answer to the question how to optimally kill your Lazer performance is simply adding about 1,000 score counters. But you know what the funniest thing is? The information about the elements you have on your screen is saved in a text document in your skin. So you could just do this and send it to a friend of yours, and they will be very confused as to why their game is lagging anytime they play with your skin, which would probably make them crash out. Well, regardless, my job here is done. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye!